Okay, in this video, we're gonna be talking about pole usage and pole technique in trail and ultra running. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna talk about is how to determine the best length pole for you. And the first thing to consider is just how long your pole should be. One of the things that you can do is just sort of stand on flat ground ideally, and if you're doing it right, the pole should make it so that your arm is in roughly a 90-degree position. Okay, so the next thing to talk about is just how important this part of the pole is. Here on the LEKI model poles, this is actually a strap that will go over my left hand. I'll show you how in just a sec. On other models of poles, you'll see where it's just a loop that comes off the end for you to put your hand through and then use as leverage. So I'll show you how it works here. And effectively what I do is I just kind of buckle up into the pole here. And this is something that you really don't want to sacrifice. The leverage that this provides really is the key to pole usage. So when you are strapped into your poles, or if you have your hand through one of the loops, this is so important. Oftentimes I see trail runners out using their poles without their hands in a strap like this or through the loops. And really, even though it is still helpful, you're not getting nearly the same leverage that you do when you have the straps on and you use them appropriately. And really, it is a very simple mechanism. Obviously, when we're going uphill, we put the pole into the ground, but really it's the pushing into the strap that gives us all of our power through the pole into the ground as we go up steep hills. Okay, so the first technique we're gonna cover is the double pole technique. This, as the name indicates, is when we're using both our poles simultaneously as we hike uphill. This strategy is, I think, most valuable as the hill gets more steep. So we reach ahead, plant our poles, push into them as we hike up the hill. Pretty basic. You don't necessarily need to be in great coordination with your feet, just whatever feels natural. But the important thing is that we're actually pushing into the poles. So again, the most important thing is using the leverage of the straps. So again, make sure you're always using the straps on your poles. You'll notice that I can even let go of the handle of the pole as I'm pushing into the strap, and I get the same amount of leverage. As you plant, you then sort of release that tension as your hands get basically right to your waist. Then reach, plant, pull. Reach, plant, pull. Reach, plant, pull. Reach, plant, pull. And then just replacing the pulls every time your hands get basically to your waist. So you're basically using your arms to pull your body up the hill. Okay, so as you probably know, the poles are definitely most useful for when we're climbing as trail runners, but I use them all the time on descents as well, especially at the latter part of races, usually long, hard 100-milers. Poles become such valuable tools on the downhills as well. The important thing to think about is just using them to blunt the impact against the ground and to help take a little bit of the stress off your legs. So when using the poles downhill, it's so nice sometimes as your legs are getting really tired, maybe you're a little bit sore, to have the poles to just kind of take a little bit of the weight off. So again, it's really important to just at least subtly when we're going downhill, whereas on the uphill, it's much more powerful of a plant and push into the ground. When we're going downhill, we're just sort of lightly tapping and putting a little bit of our body weight into the handles of the poles so that it takes a little bit of that weight stress off of our legs. Okay, so the second technique that I'm gonna show you using your poles is the single pole technique. This is a little bit more advanced than the double pole. It requires a little bit more coordination, a little bit more practice. But let me show you how we go about doing this. Effectively, we're using each of our poles independently, and we also need to coordinate it with our stride. So when my right foot is forward, I'm using my opposite hand, my left hand and my left pole into the ground. Likewise, when my left foot is forward, I'm using my right pole and my right hand to push into the ground. So this is on hills that are a little bit less steep, and if you're jogging or moving a little bit more quickly. So let me show you exactly what it looks like in motion here. So again, Opposite hand to foot, hand to foot, opposite hand to foot. And again, always focusing on actually pushing into the pole when it hits the ground. We're keeping a little bit higher of a hiking cadence than we do with the double pull technique. So of course, most of the time when we're using these helpful tools, it's when we're hiking up a hill. I'm gonna demonstrate what it looks like when you're actually jogging up a hill using your poles as well. This is also a useful skill to practice and develop. Of course, when we're gonna be jogging uphill, we really do need to focus on just the double pull technique. So again, we just break into a jogging cadence, plant our poles, making sure that we're focusing again, always on pushing as hard as we can into the poles. That power is transferred into the ground and helps bring us up this steep hill. And again, just like when we're hiking uphill using the double pull technique, reach, plant, pull. Once your hands get down to your waist, just release. Reach, plant, pull. Hands to waist, reach, plant, pull. Okay, so that's how we use our poles as trail runners. I hope some of these tips, some of the techniques are helpful for you, but this is really a skill that takes practice to develop. So don't be discouraged if you get out and start using your poles and it feels totally unnatural. Trust me, with a little practice, it'll come second nature and you'll understand just how important these tools are as trail runners.